It sat on the edge of Pine Hollow Lake, tucked between towering pines and granite outcroppings that glowed orange at sunset. The previous owner had been elderly, quiet, and apparently not very fond of the homeowners association. That should have been our first clue. The Pine Hollow Estates HOA operated like a small-town monarchy. They regulated paint colors down to the shade code. They fined residents for leaving trash cans out past 7:03 a.m. They once issued a warning letter because someone's wind chimes were emotionally disruptive. Still, the cabin was perfect. My wife, Elena, fell in love with it instantly. She stood on the porch the day we got the keys, breathing in pine-scented air, and said, "This feels safe." Safe. That word would take on a different meaning a week later. The trouble started with a lock. We'd just moved in when Elena said she wanted to change the front door lock. It wasn't paranoia, it was common sense. The previous owner had caregivers, distant relatives, and God knew how many spare keys floating around. "I'll handle it," she said, pulling her hair into a tight ponytail. Shouldn't take long. Elena had a quiet confidence about her. She didn't brag about her job, rarely talked about work at all, and carried herself like someone who preferred to observe rather than speak. If you met her at a neighborhood barbecue, you'd probably assume she worked in accounting or taught literature. You wouldn't guess she was a federal agent. That was intentional. By noon, she had the old lock off and a new heavy-duty deadbolt installed. She tested it twice, nodded with satisfaction, and went inside to make coffee. That's when we heard tires screech outside. Two Pine Hollow HOA board members, Denise Kessler and Martin Vance, were standing at the end of our driveway, arms crossed like they were inspecting a crime scene. Denise marched up first. "You can't do that," she snapped. Elena blinked. "Excuse me, exterior hardware modifications require HOA approval. It's in Section 4.3b of the Community Guidelines." "It's a lock," Elena replied calmly. "It's visible from the porch." "Yes," Elena said patiently. "That's generally where locks go." Martin chimed in. "You should have submitted a form. For securing my own home." I asked. Denise's lips thinned. "If you don't revert it, we'll issue a violation." Elena didn't raise her voice. "I'm not reverting a lock change." Denise's face flushed red. "Then we'll escalate." We assumed she meant fines. We were wrong. That evening, just after dinner, there was pounding on our door. Not knocking, pounding. I opened it to find two sheriff's deputies standing there. Behind them, Denise stood with her arms folded triumphantly. "We received a report of a possible break-in in progress," one deputy said. Caller stated a woman was seen tampering with a lock. I stared at Denise. "You called the cops," I said incredulously. She stepped forward. "I reported suspicious activity. We have to maintain safety standards." Elena appeared behind me, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "What seems to be the issue, officers?" she asked. The deputy shifted awkwardly. "Ma'am, we just need to verify you're the homeowner." Denise interjected. She refused to comply with HOA protocol and forcibly removed the existing security device. Elena's gaze hardened slightly. The existing security device was a 30-year-old lock. Still, Denise insisted, she was seen drilling. The deputies looked tired already. "Ma'am," one said gently to Elena, "can we see some ID?" There was a brief silence. Elena studied Denise for a long second. I recognized that look. It was the same expression she wore when someone underestimated her during a briefing. "Of course," she said. She reached into her back pocket and pulled out her wallet. Denise smirked. Elena flipped it open and held it up. The badge caught the porch light, flashing gold. The deputies straightened immediately. "Evening, Agent Ramirez," one said, recognizing her name. "Didn't realize this was your place." Denise's smirk dissolved. What?" she stammered. Elena's voice was calm, measured. "I'm a federal law enforcement officer. This is my primary residence. I replaced a lock for security reasons." The air shifted. The deputy turned to Denise. "Ma'am, this is clearly not a break-in." Denise's face drained of color. "She never said she was. She didn't disclose." "I don't have to disclose my profession to the HOA," Elena replied evenly. Martin, who had been lurking at the curb, suddenly found his shoes fascinating. The deputy handed back Elena's ID. "Sorry for the disturbance, ma'am. We'll clear this as unfounded." As they walked away, Denise tried to salvage something. This doesn't exempt you from community rules, she said weakly. Elena stepped forward onto the porch. No, she agreed. It doesn't. But filing a false police report because you dislike a homeowner's decision could be considered harassment. Denise froze. And harassment, Elena continued gently, is something I take very seriously. Denise didn't respond. She just turned and walked away. We thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next week, we received 3 separate violation notices. Grass half an inch too tall. Porch light brightness, excessive. Improper trash bin alignment. It was absurd. Elena read each notice carefully, then set them aside without comment. Are we going to fight this? I asked. She smiled faintly. Not yet. What's the plan? Let them build their case. I'd learned over the years that when Elena said something like that, it meant she was 3 steps ahead. 2 days later, we received a certified letter, a formal hearing scheduled with the HOA board regarding continued noncompliance and disruptive behavior. Disruptive behavior. For changing a lock. The hearing took place in the Pine Hollow Clubhouse, a beige building that smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and old coffee. The entire board sat at a folding table like a tribunal. Denise presided at the center. About a dozen residents filled the chairs behind us. Word had spread. Denise cleared her throat dramatically. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, she began, you are here due to repeated violations of community standards. Elena folded her hands in her lap. Denise launched into a rehearsed speech about aesthetic harmony and procedural integrity. Then she reached the main point. You created unnecessary alarm by engaging in unauthorized modifications, leading to law enforcement involvement. Elena tilted her head slightly. You called law enforcement. You forced our hand. How? Elena asked calmly. Denise faltered. By refusing to comply. With what law? Elena pressed. Martin shuffled papers. There's no law, he muttered. It's a guideline. Elena stood. The room went silent. She didn't raise her voice. Let's clarify something, she said. I legally purchased this property. I changed a lock to protect my home. The HOA responded by filing a police report alleging a potential break-in. She paused. That report was false. Denise's mouth opened, then closed. I have obtained a copy of the call transcript, Elena continued. It states that an unknown female was attempting forced entry. Murmurs rippled through the audience. I was not unknown, Elena said. I am the homeowner. Denise's composure cracked. We were acting in good faith. No, Elena said firmly. You were attempting intimidation. The word hung in the air. Elena reached into her folder and slid a document across the table. What is this? Denise asked shakily. A formal complaint, Elena replied, regarding misuse of emergency services and targeted harassment. Martin looked like he might faint. I don't want conflict, Elena added. But I will not tolerate abuse of authority. One of the other board members, a gray-haired woman named Linda, cleared her throat. I wasn't aware of the police report details, she said quietly. Denise handled that. Several heads turned. Denise suddenly looked very alone at that table. Linda continued, perhaps we should reconsider the violation notices. The room shifted. Elena didn't gloat. She simply sat down. Over the next month, something remarkable happened. The HOA board changed. Not officially at first, but residents started asking questions. Why were police being called over locks? Why were minor issues escalated to hearings? Why did fines seem selectively enforced? At the next quarterly meeting, 3 board members resigned. Denise tried to stay on, but support evaporated. A vote was held. She was removed. In her place, Linda became acting president. The tone of the HOA softened almost immediately. Violation notices dropped by 80%. Forms were simplified. A community feedback system was introduced. And one evening, Linda knocked on our door. I wanted to apologize, she said sincerely. This went too far. Elena nodded. Thank you. Linda hesitated. I hope you'll consider joining the oversight committee. I nearly laughed. Elena smiled politely. I'll think about it. After Linda left, I looked at my wife. You're terrifying, I said affectionately. She raised an eyebrow. Because I changed a lock. No, I said. Because you didn't. She leaned against the counter. Power isn't about force, she said quietly. It's about knowing when to stand still. Months later, Pine Hollow felt different. Kids rode bikes without parents worrying about citation letters. Neighbors waved more. The lake looked the same. The pines still whispered at dusk, but the tension had lifted. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, I sat beside Elena on the porch. "Do you regret flashing the badge?" I asked. She considered. "No," she said, "but I wish I hadn't needed to." We sat in comfortable silence. The new lock gleamed under the porch light, completely ordinary, completely legal. Sometimes I think about how close things came to spiraling further. All because someone couldn't stand the idea of losing control. Denise moved away 2 months after her removal. We heard she joined another HOA in a neighboring county. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. As for us, we kept the cabin, we kept the lock, and we kept our peace. Because sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make isn't shouting.